I hate to do this. I hate to do this because I don't want to spend the energy. I don't want to take the time. But I feel like I had to say something. Like, I have a way of thinking about heaven. I have a way of thinking about heaven. It has something to do with, my life, history. It has to do with the way I've learned history, the way I've learned religion, and my personal experiences. And even though I'm trying to be light about it, from my perspective, my personal experiences have been brutal. Not traumatic, brutal. Ball crushing. Uh, but I just wanted to make this quick point. Uh, one of the most beloved, one of the most beloved literary artifices of the humanities is, Dante's Inferno. And, what is it? Faustus? Something or other. Faustus. Faustus. Yeah. But certainly Dante's Inferno, and then Botticelli made that kind of famous painting of Dante's Inferno, which looks a little bit like if you take the dome, if you take the dome of the White House, turn it upside down, and make it a negative image. That's almost like what Botticelli's painting looks like upside down. So we are taught there are many levels of hell. There's actually only one level of hell. But we are taught there are many levels of hell. There isn't a pseudo gaseous diffusion of souls in hell, but hardly is it levels of hell. What there really is levels of heaven. But as it so happens, it's more useful. See, this is one of the things between the left brain and the right brain. There are actually less levels of hell than there are of heaven. I think most people think there's like one level of heaven. Purgatory's this weird thing that only a third of the world, a sixth of the world believes in. And then there's hell, which some people think of as a thing, but then the learned folk think of as Dante's Inferno, But I think I think actually there is no such thing as Dante's Inferno. I think there's one bounded region of hell, mostly. There are several bounded regions of hell, but there is a dominant region of hell that needs to be obliterated, in my opinion. And one of the things, this is the thing, one of the things that is underappreciated about hell is this: hell is a soul preserver, which means, like, would you rather live your life and disappear? Or would you rather live your life and then go to hell remembering everything that you remember now? Like, you're a human being. You're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old. Okay. So you remember all that, but you know where you're going. I know where I'm going. Yeah. Once I go there, would I rather forget and be helpless and just completely disappear from eternity? Or would I rather remember everything and also exist there in eternity? The funny thing about eternity is it takes as long to go there for a fraction of a second as it does to go there for ever. In my opinion. In my opinion. There was something I was trying to talk about. I don't remember. Right, heaven. I think the best way of thinking about heaven is this. Right. If I remember correctly, Christ said there's a war, or, well, he referenced, so indirectly he said there's a war in heaven. Right. How did he indirectly said this? There is a war in heaven. That's what Jesus said. In my mind, that's my inference. In my opinion, Jesus, my inference is that Jesus implied that there is a war in heaven. Why? Because somewhere in the scripture, it is said that he spoke on the warring, like active verb, not war as a noun, warring, making war. It's funny, like the word warring and the words making war are grammatically different, but they mean the same thing. But they also, there's a little bit of distinction between them where the grammar makes minor distinctions. That's an interesting piece of linguistics, so far as I'm concerned, or what some people might call philology, or what other people might call phonetics, or what other people might call, did I say etymology? Or what other people might call Yeah, well, then there's the division between, yeah, Dewey, pragmatism, and I think he was from Harvard. There was Dewey, who was the pragmatist, but then there was the pragmaticist, who I've referenced before. What's his name? What the hell is his name? This is embarrassing. Purse. I think I put some books in a Tupperware thing. I think it's in the Tupperware thing. Charles Peirce. So Dewey was the pragmatist, and Charles Peirce was the pragmaticist. He was super brilliant when he was a younger man. When he got older, I think his family got the best of him, kind of like Nietzsche. Nietzsche's family got the best of him. Like, Nietzsche went to war with his family. Everybody thinks he was like revolutionizing philosophy. No, he was just at war with his family. Same with Charles Peirce, and both of them suffered, unfortunately, kind of the same fate. You know, Nietzsche supposedly got syphilis because his family hooked him up with a whore, assholes. And similarly, clearly Charles Peirce was probably on the spectrum, and super brilliant on paper, super stupid in life. And his super pragmatic family forced him to marry his retarded younger cousin, and, you know, philosophy went off the wheels. Nobody is innocent in this situation. It's so beautiful. It works so perfectly. Nobody is innocent. In that whole story I told, every single person is guilty. But you know who else is guilty? Me, for telling the story. And do you know who else is guilty? You, for understanding. Which reminds me of, I'm not sure if it's the same Dewey. It was like in the first or second video I ever made on my channel back in 2012, motherfucker. Like, I forget what I cannot. It was some quote at the end of a long reading I read. Like, it was something like, whatever I cannot be at all, I cannot understand either. Like, if I can't be it, I can't understand it. So if you're jiving with this, you get it. That's it. Anyway, here's my 2 levels of hell. The outer portion of hell is St. Christopher, the dog-headed saint. These days, popularized by Jonathan Pajot. And my inner circle of heaven, not hell, heaven, is Saint Therese. Not the first one, the second one. In my mind, I know there's like a billion of them, but the second Saint Therese, the little flower from France. I actually think she was a difficult daughter. I think she was a difficult nun. I think she was a difficult person. I really, really, really do. But I think it's because God was squeezing her. And no one listened. God was squeezing her, and no one listened. In her whole life, in certain ways, like everyone betrayed her. The only time that the people in her own life came to love her is when she was suffering. And at first, the people in her life were glad for her suffering because she was so intense and like crazy. But prophetic and divined a miraculous grace for the gift to gab. And she wrote her great work as a doctor. I think she's a doctor of the church now. She wrote her great work as she was dying and knew she was dying. And still, she was running at full speed her whole life until she hit the wall. And slowed down. Most people, when they hit the wall, they just fucking underground, forgotten. Meanwhile, Saint Therese summoned the last bit of her, like, breathing spirit, her living spirit, her blood spirit. Saint Therese, and put it into a book. I mean, she might be the greatest. I'm pretty sure she's a doctor of the church. She might be the greatest woman doctor of the church, besides, of course, Mary. Like, forget about an honorary doctorate. Mary doesn't get an see, that's the thing of what I hate about Protestants, even though I grew up Protestant and I'm not Catholic. I'm not Catholic, but I love Catholics. And I grew up Protestant and I kind of fucking hate Protestants. So I'm only being very mildly hyperbolic about that. People talk about rabbit holes. Let me tell you about the best rabbit hole ever dug. Ever! Watership Down. The novel Watership Down. Anything to do with Watership Down. There was a sequel that came out years and years later. I haven't. I read about 2/3 of it, probably 20 years ago. It didn't jive with me, but it might jive with me now because there's a lot of things that I read 20 years ago that I jived with then that I don't jive with now. And then other things that I didn't jive with then that I do jive with now, just because of, time. Now, some of that jiving is because of fear. I admit it, yeah. Now I'm more fearful. I'm becoming more conservative, sure. But a lot of it actually is about optimism. Because my optimism is increased. while the pessimism in the world has decreased. That's my opinion. Today, tomorrow I'd be like, "Rah!" Yeah, who the fuck knows, man? 51-49. It's tough when you're at the tipping point. Because when you're at the tipping point, it doesn't mean you're tipping from one way to the other. It might mean that you're weeble wobbling, and you might tip right the fuck back. Do we want to retreat into medieval philosophy, medieval religions, and medieval life? Well, actually, there are a few gems to retrieve from the medieval age. I don't know the technical, like, age, era, epoch, like, I think in different contexts, these different words mean different things, but here I'm using them a little more just colloquially. But yeah, my version of heaven is this, like, and now I'm gonna be just a little more poetic because I don't have much energy left, and I just want to get it in there. God didn't say I'm eternal. God didn't say, I shouldn't say that, but like, I am the beginning and the end. I am the Alpha and the Omega. God changes names from Abram to Abraham, from Saul to Paul, from well, whoever the fuck Peter was before he was Peter, or Kephas in Aramaic. The Rock. Yeah, we have names. We have names. You go from one thing to another. And also, so it is, I wouldn't say prophesized, I would say declared. Some things are prophecies, some things are proclamations, some things are declarations. Some things are demands, but not demands is too soft of a word. Some things are certain. What I'm talking about is where it is said, a new heaven, a new earth. Not just a new earth, a new heaven. Now, to my understanding, the only people who really these days have talked about a new heaven is the Seventh Day Adventists, right? I think so. I think the Seventh Day Adventists are the only ones these days who are still talking about, because of what their matriarch or one of their matriarchs said. Not Jehovah's Witnesses, what's the name? So yeah, Seventh-day Adventists, which is all caught up with Nietzsche. It's all caught up with Nietzsche. I'll just refer you to the calendar. That's all I'm going to say. If you figure that out. Happy Christmas, man. But I think the nice way of thinking about heaven now, like heaven evolves. In eternity, heaven is the same. The first thing God did when God came into being wasn't that God created God. God was born from Mary. Right? It's a little bit like circular thinking, but it's actually toroidal thinking, right? You're going to think I'm speaking in circles, but I'm actually speaking in toroids. So get the groove, you know? In the beginning, not at the beginning, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. We've heard it so many times. I've said this before. We've heard it so many times. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1, the first sentence, right? And we think we know what the Bible is saying by that. We have a little picture in our head. Some of us love the picture we have in our head. Some of us hate the picture we have in our head. And that's it. Neither of us know what that's saying. How do I know that? Because Genesis, I think it's Genesis 1:2. I've had a couple drinks, so I better make sure. Okay, I don't see my bowels anywhere. All right, King James. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. We've heard it a billion times. Like both secular people and religious people don't register with that. It's so funny. The first sentence in the Bible, the book, the Biblios, the Helios Biblios, the Holy Bible, like the first sentence, right? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. The first sentence, everybody goes by it. And because of that, because it's just so like, oh, we've heard it a billion times. Everybody skips to like, it's like, where's the part where Cain kills or whatever? Like, you know, everybody's just looking for the controversy, just like social media. It's crazy. But then, the second sentence. Oh my God. It's the most beautiful sentence in English to my mind. Like, fuck Shakespeare. Fuck, what's the other dude? Well, there's Shakespeare. There's that French guy. Proust. There's Shakespeare. Shakespeare was good, but if I had to put all my money on anything that came out of England, and I had two choices, if I had to put all my money onto Shakespeare or onto Chantilly's lace, I would put all my money on Chantilly's lace. Chantilly's lace is a greater accomplishment than Shakespeare, believe it or not. And you need to get back to that mindset. And then you will take over the world again. Anyway, this is one of the greatest sentences ever written. And the earth was without form and void. Semicolon. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. Wait. That's the second sentence. Now I'm confused because the first sentence said, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, in my mind, the earth is where I live. I'm on this ball. I live on this ball. I think I know in my mind where that maps out because I have a little phone. I can see it on the map. That's the earth. It's Google Earth. It's not without form. It's not void. I have all my topologies. I have all my rivers, my boundaries, my city names, my places. Chipotle's are all lit up everywhere. T-Mobiles, I can see it on the map. Where do I want to go? I don't know. Let's see what's closest. Okay, there we go. When are they open? I don't know. When's it most busy? I want to go there when it's slow. But maybe I want to go there when it's more busy if I'm going to a social thing, you know? I don't know. Second sentence of the Bible. Wait. The first sentence of the Bible said that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. So God created two things, which implies separation. But what if the heaven and the earth were conjoined in the beginning? In the beginning? So did the beginning have a boundary such that in the beginning? Or is it more poetically used, like at the beginning, or around the beginning, amongst the beginning, near the beginning? Like, what do we mean by that word? How was it used then? Etymologically, philologically, I don't know. Anyway, the second sentence, so unbelievable. And the earth was without form and void. And what's so important about that? That's only half of the second sentence. That's only half of this. It's interesting that the first sentence is a full sentence and that the second sentence is a semicolon sentence. By the way, that's not unimportant, especially when we consider the time period that this book was made in, the whole milieu of everything with James and Queen Anne. Oh, Queen Anne and Queen Anne's lice. How historically important that Nomer, that name, is. Okay, so, and if you just said, if just the second sentence was, and the earth was right. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Okay. Second sentence, and the earth was without form. And that's the only piece of information you had. You'd go, and the earth was without form. What? Or, and remember, that's only 1/3 of the second sentence of the Bible. Second third of the second sentence of the Bible. And the earth was without form and void. So you could have just said, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was void. Void? So without form kind of means a bunch of things, but kind of means one thing. And void also means kind of a bunch of things, but also one thing, right? And the word form and the word void kind of overlap in this inverse way, right? If we consider antimatter, like how do they interact? Well, kind of a little bit like form and void, you know. But like without form, I should say that, yeah. Without form, so formless, void. Like formless means one thing, void means another thing. But the second sentence of the Bible, the first sentence of the Bible says that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And what did the Bible say about the earth that God created? It had no form and it was empty. The second sentence of the Bible might be the most important sentence of the Bible. Interestingly, and of course, those two words, heaven and earth, can mean many different things. And that's the thing. We're always trying to like pare down like what words mean, pare down what words mean. But that's not the way God works. God blooms and things overlap and come together. We're not meant to like take one scholastic or academic. Those words actually mean different things. Historically, if you're into the history and if you're into the history of philosophy and also kind of the history and philosophy of science, because these days the history and philosophy of science is actually the best tract on philosophy. It kind of was born out of Descartes. Descartes wasn't, well, and Pascal. And the tension between Pascal and Descartes, it kind of mirrors the tension between Leibniz and Newton. It kind of mirrors the tension between Iamblichus and, not Proclus, Iamblichus and whoever the guy, I forget his name. There's Iamblichus, Proclus, Hypatia. But in the what is called the Neoplatonists, which is a misnomer, because calling Plotinus a Neoplatonist it's a sin against God, actually, against God, not only against Sophia but against God. But the guy, like people always say that Plotinus wrote the Aeneid, Aeneaid, something like that. I can't remember how to spell it, but people always say Plotinus wrote that. But Porphyry, maybe Porphyry was the name, was a Neoplatonist. Yeah, Porphyry probably was a Neoplatonist. He was the only one, and everybody else was a Platonician. But Porphyry wrote the most. It might not be Porphyry. I'll annotate it later. The Aeneid. The idiot. Yeah, Iamblichus and Hypatia were the real historical champions of Platonusianism, which is a better term for that branch of philosophy in my mind. Iamblichian Platonusianism, or in the Syriac, Yamlik. Yamlik in the Syriac, because he was Syrian, which more or less, yeah, Heraclitus, I believe, was Syrian. Heraclitus was Syrian, the weeping philosopher. But Yeah, so anyway, the whole point of this is that, like, Saint, like, here's the whole thing. Saint Christopher is a fucked up person. Saint Therese, the little flower, I know there's Saint Therese of Lisieux and Saint Therese of Aragon. I can't remember which one the little flower is, but the little flower, like, she was a long day. Like, the little flower was hard to deal with. Like, she burned hot. And so did Saint Christopher in different ways, the dog headed saint. They burned hot in different ways, but it worked at the end. And to my mind, that's heaven. Like, there's a bunch of tough ass motherfucking big ass fucking dogs standing guard at heaven's door. And what they're protecting, like, the problem with Saint Therese is she couldn't take anything. She just had to have everything be all love and all nice and all perfect, right? But she was really hardcore about it. And it seems unrealistic, and it is unrealistic. But dirty dogs who have lost everything, who have seen so much, yet still are looking for something to grasp for. Like a dirty dog who still has the will to live, the want to live and to fight for the truth, despite how many bad things we've done, right? Like, or whatever, like, we still want to fight for the truth. Like, I don't have health insurance, but I have lumps on me. I'm just kind of going with God. It's a lot cheaper that way, right? For now. But like, you're a dirty dog, you know you're fucked. And you know you're a dirty dog and you know you're falling into hell. You know you're descending. Failed people know they are failing. But this very bright hope that heaven affords is that if you're standing guard at heaven's gate as you fall, like, even if you're falling away from heaven, you can either be looking into the abyss or you can be looking up and watching heaven and watching the other souls try to get there and watching the other demons try to get them. Like, it's kind of a figurative way of talking about it, but the dog who hates everybody, the old dog who's kind of good at his job, the old dog who's not good at much, but he's good at his job, is good at loving the little girl who's not good at anything. except for loving. The only thing that old dog wants, the only thing that old dog St. Christopher wants is a thank you. And the only thing the little flower wants is, "You're so very welcome, young lady. It's my pleasure." That's it. That's heaven. I think that's a good diagram of heaven.